This zesty corporate ladder climber thought he was the next CEO speedrun record holder, but life bent him up and gave him a 6-inch reality check. Man got betrayed, dumped overboard, and respawned not as a swordsman, not a demon lord, not even a slime, but as one of the ugliest looking wide-mouthed discount bass straight out the gacha trash bin. Dude's getting ratioed by actual fish, catching ulls so hard even his fish brother tried to eat him. Now he's stuck grinding levels underwater, beefing with storks and humans, and somehow pulling anime-tier speeches while being built like fish sticks. But under all that's troubled his life goals are to crawl back from fish hell, make it to the wife and kid he once treated like side quests, and clap his partner cheeks who sold him out. Let's see if a bass can pull it off. In the deep blue ocean, there's this budget wannabe Aquaman, speed swimming like his life depends on it. Which, to be fair, it kinda does, because right behind him is a kaiju-level fish that looks like it rage quit straight out of Pokemon. Just then, RNG Sus decides to bless him with a glowing orb floating ahead. With no other way out of the map, he eats himself toward it, while the fish is practically clipping through his hitbox. And just as he's about to get swallowed whole, he wakes up, drenched in sweat, cheeks working overtime. He sits there in the dark, staring out at the rainy night through his window. Eventually, he drags himself into his car, muttering about how today feels exactly like yesterday. Rich guy problems, am I right? At the office, the driver trails behind with an umbrella while everyone greets him with that weird combo of respect and fear you only reserve for CEOs. But the vibe feels heavier today. In the conference room, one unlucky employee nervously presents the company's poor results like a sacrificial lamb trying to survive a corporate blood moon. Everyone holds their fear, and while listening to the presentation, as the poor guy up front keeps assuring them they can bounce back. The CEO, though, shuts him down mid-yap and actually thanks him for putting in that much research. I think the guy knows he wasn't grinding reports. He was grinding to goth baddies and letting ChatGPT cook his slides. The CEO quickly switches gears, pointing out that while the presentation looks nice, the company's performance is still absolute trash. He warns the team about not working hard enough to secure their positions, and the whole room suddenly feels like it's running on survival mode. When the meeting finally ends, everyone scurries off like NPCs clocking out while the CEO casually heads back to his car. But instead of going home, he orders his driver to take him straight to the next meeting. On the way, he reads a text from his wife reminding him it's their kid's birthday. And like the working Chad he is, he brushes her off. Man is out here treating his entire married life like an optional side quest. Feeling a rare flicker of dad guilt, the CEO tells his driver to stop by a toy store. But before they can even argue about which one, Carcoon comes flying in and slams straight into their side doors, rattling the CEO inside out. Out of the other car step 2 mafia extras who drag the CEO out and deliver him to their boss, who, for reasons only known to the Manhwa gods, is just casually fishing in the rain. They throw the CEO in front of him, and the boss looks furious, calling him Shin. He even reminds him that they used to go fishing together back in the day. Shin, trembling, calls him Chairman Kang and asks why this is happening. Kang flips the question back, saying Shin should already know. He explains that Shin was the reason he became chairman of the Shinwa group in the first place, but now Shin knows too many secrets. Kang can't risk a walking spoiler ruining his empire, so the only logical step is to silence him. Shin pleads, but he's not dumb. He can tell Kang's already rolled his final decision. With just a nod, Kang orders one of his guys to whack Shin with a baseball bat, dropping him to the ground. And while Shin's lying there dazed, Kang, in peak villain fashion, casually starts discussing his next meeting with his secretary. On Kang's order, they drag Shin to the raging ocean and straight up eat him into the water, feet chained with heavy weights that drag him down fast. It looks like the end, but for Shin, it doesn't feel right. In his final moments, he remembers all those years of loyalty, bringing Kang profits, following orders, and realizes 16 years of service left him nothing more than a used condom. Even his own family got treated like a side quest, and now, as the light fades from his eyes, regret hits him pretty hard. Then, just before it all goes dark, he hears a faint voice asking if he wants to start life over again. It's that glowing orb again, confusing him at first, but with no other option, he agrees. I know he is expecting to be reborn as the usual Manhwa power fantasy. Maybe a Chad, maybe a dragon, maybe a martial arts prodigy. Instead, the system rolls out the worst gacha pull ever. Every single option is a fish. Not sharks, not dolphins, not even a cool eel, just the grocery store lineup. Shin is absolutely stunned, but as he runs out of breath, the orb forces him to choose. When he doesn't, the system auto-picks for him, and just like that, the poor guy gets reincarnated as a bass. Not even a special one, just a bass with all singular stats. Truly the worst Manhwa reincarnation speedrun of all time. Shin remembers the old days back when he was still a corporate slave. One time, while he was chilling on the rooftop with a smoke, Kang suddenly asked if he liked fishing. Our boy was confused, thinking this was some kind of coded request for a raise. But no, Kang insisted he actually wanted to take him fishing, which was rare since Kang usually went alone. Hearing Shin's hesitation, Kang sweetened the deal by promising extra allowance. So off they went, however. To Shin's surprise, he actually enjoyed it, and even managed to reel in some massive fish. Kang was impressed, jokingly asking if he planned to sell it. Everything was great, except the fish they caught was a bass, and to Shin, it looked ugly as hell. Well. How the tables have turned. Back in the present, Shin is now exactly that same wide-mouthed, big-eyed, ugly bass. Looking around in disbelief, he can't process that a CEO of a 4-star company is now downgraded to supermarket leftovers. Before he even knows how to exist like this, a system notification pops up revealing that his main quests is to become the master of the lake with a reward of any wish he has. With that, our fish gains predator and critical detection skills. But even with shiny new skills, Shin is still in denial. There's no way a CEO just gets nerfed into a bass overnight, right? Maybe it's still a dream. With his one fish brain cell, he slams his head against a nearby rock to wake up. Instead of escaping, his HP drops to half and his body gets paralyzed. That's when it finally clicks. This isn't a dream. This is his new life, Ugly Bass Edition. Upside down and paralyzed, Shin hangs there like the ocean's newest idiot, while the surrounding fish start trash-talking him. Honestly, fair game. He just slammed his head into a rock on purpose. Desperate, he begins pleading with the system to undo his paralysis and give him another chance. As he sinks deeper into the water, a system window suddenly pops up with a tutorial quest to fill his empty stomach. Its reward is 1 random memory plus 10 experience points. Shin, still half in disbelief, is shocked to see an actual quest with rewards. He quickly remembers the main quest from earlier, the one promising a wish of his choice. That sparks real hope that maybe he could return to being human, take revenge on Kang, and get back to the family he once tossed aside like side content. He also remembers those endless fishing trips with Kang. A decade of them gave him a solid understanding of the freshwater ecosystem, basically Fish 101. With that knowledge and a fire to redeem himself, Shin decides to try. After all, as a human, he climbed the corporate ladder fast. Surely he can grind his way up the aquatic food chain too. Fueled by determination, he charges toward a small creature, ready for his first hunt. But just as he's about to chomp down, another fish swoops in and snatches it right out of his mouth. Shin is in disbelief as he watches the fish around him devour everything in sight like a starving swarm. That's when it hits him that this world runs on the simple rule, eat or be eaten. If he wants to survive, he has to grind hard. With newfound determination, he launches at a small bug creature, ready to finally score his first meal. But before he can bite, his stamina bar bottoms out and our boy immediately faceplants into factory reset mode. While stuck in that useless state, he gets even more annoyed seeing other bass flashing past him, bragging about how they hunt in groups. Shin knows they'll eventually eat each other anyway, but right now he's too powerless to care. Observing all this chaos, he realizes he needs to change strategy as there are too many predators fighting over the same spot. He'll have to target different waters if he wants a chance. After a while, he thankfully regains movement, but at the worst possible time. A level 10 bluegill squad rolls in, attacking the bass population like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Shin finally understands the brutal food chain here that if you don't hunt, you'll get hunted. One of the bluegills locks onto him and starts chasing, but before it can finish him off, a much bigger bigmouth bass swoops in. Both Shin and the bluegill freeze as the new threat prepares to swallow them whole. They aren't able to move as they are hit by instinctive fear. Shin tries to swim away, but his stamina bar is already empty, and his body gives up. It looks like game over for him, until the big fish swims right past, ignoring Shin entirely, and instead goes straight for the level 10 bluegill. Clumped up and waiting for death, Shin suddenly hears a heavy voice. To his shock, it's coming from the big fish, saying it's protecting his child. That single word, child, hits Shin hard, dragging him back to memories of his own family. He remembers the nights when his wife internally begged him to put his phone away during dinner. Instead, he'd be watching fishing videos, reading up about spawn season, and geeking out over how male basses show strong paternal love by protecting their offspring. In other words, Fishcorn, his wife, frustrated, had finally broken down and asked if he regretted marrying her. Shin, blindsided, realized she wasn't just venting, she was hurting. She admitted she craved affection, time together, and space for herself, especially while raising their child, Yuju. But Shin, true corporate Andrew Tate wannabe, flat out denied her request for more time. Instead, he offered to hire a maid if she couldn't handle the kid. Classic side quest dodging. Now back in his new fish body, hearing the bass declare it would protect its children, Shin feels the weight of those words. He recalls everything he once read about their habits, how the male bass cleans the floor with its tail to prepare a nest, where the female lays her eggs. After the female lays the eggs, it's the male's job to stay behind, defend the nest, and play fish dad against every natural enemy in sight. That's when Shin realizes the bigmouth bass isn't just another predator. It's a father protecting its children. The thought makes him reflect on his own life and whether he'd ever truly done the same for his family. Eventually, he snaps out of the emotional spiral and focuses on the present. He's still alive, lucky enough to have survived the attack, and now it's time to figure out his environment. Getting a little more familiar with the quest window, Shin decides he needs to stay calm and start investigating. Looking around, he spots small fish swimming nearby. They don't seem like a direct threat, probably because the big bass dad is still hanging around. But he notices a few shady lurkers hiding in the shadows, waiting for the perfect chance to strike. Pulling up the system window, Shin decides to focus on his 3 skills. The first one is Eat Level 1, which basically lets him steal skills and gain EXP from whatever prey he eats. Useful, sure, but not his top priority right now. Instead, he shifts to the second skill, Detect Danger. The ability lets him scan enemies within his sight, showing their stats. Using it, Shin sees that the father bass's level is hidden, but the smaller fish around him are visible. The system even color codes them. Green for allies, yellow for neutral, and red for enemies. Sure enough, one bass lights up in bright red, flagged as hostile. This feels really weird to Shin, since despite being its sibling, that fish is acting sus. To be safe, Shin decides to stay cautious of it for the time being. Scanning the area further, he spots multiple enemies, But he knows as long as the father bass isn't pulling a going out for milk act, everyone in the spawning ground stays safe. Still, safety isn't everything. The real issue is that everyone's starving 24/7. Shin figures the only way to actually eat is to head outside the spawning grounds. After wandering for a bit, he eventually finds a patch of water crawling with easy prey. Basically the kiddie pool of the ocean. Lucky for him, a level 0 plankton floats nearby. Without wasting time, he chumps it down and instantly feels like a pro. Not only is it his first catch, but it also gives him +1 experience points and fills 30% of his quest progress. Hyped by the results, Shin gets back to work, mowing through plankton left and right. With fewer predators around, he's able to grind his quest progress to a clean 100%. But just as he's celebrating his gains, his detect danger skill pings, and to his horror, he sees a level 11 bluegill locked onto him. Shin panics and instantly burns his level 1 dash, shooting forward about 1 meter. It's surprisingly useful, letting him break line of sight for a moment, but the downside is that it guzzles stamina like crazy. Definitely not a spammable move. Soon enough, Shin's stamina bar bottoms out, but it's just enough to drag himself back to the dad bass. Safe in the family zone, he throws a look over his shoulder, mocking the predators who can only glare hopelessly before slinking away. Thinking it's not worth the trouble, they all dip. Shin, meanwhile, flops down to catch his breath, letting his stamina slowly tick back up before heading out to grind more prey. Meanwhile, above the surface, a guy decked out in full fishing gear sets up his camera, praying he can catch a big one, live on stream. To his luck, he spots the dad bass hovering protectively around his kids. Back underwater, Shin's tutorial quest finally dings complete and he levels up to 2. Instantly, he feels stronger than ever. His body size ticks up, his health and stamina fully recover, and on top of that, he randomly gets someone's memory as a bonus reward. Shin's hyped but also a little confused as he doesn't actually feel much bigger, but the mystery memory catches his curiosity. When he checks it out, the reward suddenly seeps into his mind. To his shock, the scene shows him standing like a ghost in front of his sad wife. He is stunned to see his wife, and when he tries to walk over to comfort her, his ghostly hands pass right through. Before he can process it, her phone rings, she picks up, and it's her mom asking about Yuju's birthday. His wife quickly pulls herself together, explaining that their daughter had fun and went to sleep after the party. But when her mom asks about Shin, she admits half bitter, half resigned that he's always too busy to show up. She tries to defend him, insisting that being a CEO isn't exactly a 9-to-5, and thanks to his work, they're living comfortably. Hearing her talk about him like that, Shin gets emotional, apologizing under his breath as he steps out of the memory. Back in fish form, he blinks, still reeling from what he saw. But instead of despair, it only makes him more determined to find a way back to his wife. Just then, his quest window pops up again, informing him to eat more fish to complete part 2 of the tutorial. Same reward, except this time it offers 20 experience. Shin notices the grind's getting steeper, but he decides to push through. Remembering his family, he can't escape the irony, reincarnated as a fish, yet still shackled to grind quests. Spotting a water flea nearby, he chumps it down instantly. With each bite, he can't help but reflect on his past life, one where he chased money endlessly. While he's busy munching, a larger predator suddenly lunges at him. Fueled by rage at how he lived before, Shin dashes out of its reach. Memories flood back of his lonely childhood, where the only companion he had was his cat. Lost in thought, Shin doesn't realize he's darted straight into the path of something worse, a massive level 17 crucian carp looming ahead. Seeing the crucian carp, Shin suddenly remembers his dad, the man who went out for the ultimate milk run, and just never came back. Fueled by that old anger, he darts past the predators, knowing that loneliness and neglect were the fire that pushed him to climb higher in life. But while he's stuck in those thoughts, another fish manages to catch up, only for the father bass to swoop and clutch and smack it down. Shin, despite being saved, can't help but feel exposed again, like those defenseless days from his childhood. The trauma of absent parents still packed neatly in his baggage. Meanwhile, above the water, the fisherman finally casts his line, clearly hungry to bag the father bass. Back underwater, Shin pulls up his quest window to check his progress, but notices the father bass still locked in defense mode. The guy just saved his life, and Shin mentally thanks him. But before he can get sentimental, his detect danger skill goes off. His sus sibling is suddenly tailing him, only to turn away instantly, pretending like nothing happened. Classic. Shin's jaw drops when he realizes he's already level 3. That's way too fast. And if he can shoot up levels like that, then his sus sibling could just as easily flip the script and eat him someday. He makes a mental note to keep an eye on that sussy baka. Just as he's processing this, his eyes land on something strange, a shiny fishing lure dangling nearby, practically begging him to make a dumb decision. At first, Shin is confused by this shiny thing, then it clicks. If it's dropped this close to the spawning ground, it's obviously bait for the male bass. Panic sets in. He knows the dad's instincts will scream intruder the moment he sees it, and that lure is practically begging to get smacked. While Shin is nervously overthinking what to do, the sussy baka sibling is lurking in the background, clearly waiting for the perfect chance to pull something shady. Shin knows one thing for sure. If the dad gets taken out, nobody's gonna bother protecting him anymore. He remembers Kang bragging once about how easy it was to catch male bass during spawn season, and that memory doesn't exactly calm him down. Right then, his worst fear hits. The sus sibling pounces, taking it half on his tail. Shin thrashes around in pure desperation, trying to break free from that backstabber's grip. Meanwhile, the father Bass, oblivious to Shin's life or death struggle, is already laser-focused on the lure. And to Shin's horror, the dad suddenly goes full berserker mode, charging with his mouth wide open and biting straight down on the fisherman's trap. In that moment, Shin remembers Kang's fishing advice. Back then, Kang told him that the easiest way to catch a male bass wasn't just tossing a lure into the spawning ground. The real trick was finding a bass with strong paternal love. The more protective and aggressive they were, the easier they would hook. Basically, the better the dad, the faster he'd get finessed. Now in the present, Shin sees that exact nightmare playing out. The father bass chomps the lure and the fisherman immediately starts reeling. Just like that, the family's frontline defender is yanked out of the water. Shin can only watch in disbelief before his attention snaps back to his sussy sibling, who's been gnawing at him this whole time. Fueled by rage, Shin tries to fight back, but he can't even pry himself out of the wannabe cannibal's big mouth. To make things worse, the sibling activates a skill called binge, which lets a fish swallow prey bigger than itself. Half of Shin's body disappears into those jaws while a system warning flashes in front of him that he is about to be eaten. Shin realizes that if this fish is using skills, then others probably can too. But he has no time to think. The warning keeps blaring. Desperate, Shin forces out his dash skill, and by some miracle, it works. The miracle doesn't last long though, because using dash while halfway inside another fish isn't exactly a good idea. His backbone snaps mid-channel, the skill cancels, and another warning screams at him that both his HP and movement are crippled. And as Shin lies there in pain, he turns his gaze back only to see his sus cousin still on his ass, ready to complete his sweet home Alabama dreams. Shin makes a run for it, but he knows deep down he's cooked. His body's injured, his stamina's shot, and his sus cousin is sitting pretty at level 3. There's no way his scuffed, floppy body can outrun that. But then, with his 300 ping brain lagging behind reality, Shin realizes something. If he just completes the quest, he'll level up, heal, and maybe even match the cousin's level. Scanning the area, he spots a lone water flea waddling around. Just as he's about to go for it, his cousin body slams him with a body bump spell, smashing Shin into the dirt with only 0.2 HP left. The cousin, eyes glazed like a zombie, keeps muttering that he is hungry while staring at Shin's limp little fish body. He charges in for the final bite, but Shin, running purely on survival mode, rolls out of the way with the last shred of energy he has. He scrambles forward and goes straight for the flea. Inches away, his freaky cousin lunges, trying to eat him whole with binge. But fueled by pure spite, Shin pushes harder and manages to chomp the flea first. Instantly, the system lights up, revealing that his level up. His body grows, his stamina and HP shoot back to full, and the cousin is yeeted off him like a ragdoll. Shin, now level 3, turns the tables in glorious fashion. Without wasting a second, he body slams his cousin into the ground, trash-talking the whole time. Then he does it again, and again. A full-on fishy ditty slap combo while yelling at his sus Beka cousin like he's grinding PvP points. Shin is pissed. His own sibling really had the audacity to treat him like prey. Now fueled by family betrayal, he's absolutely pounding his freaky cousin into the dirt. Other predators floating nearby take notice, but Shin doesn't care as he's in full WWE mode. A system notification pings that his stamina is depleted, but it's fine. He's already put his sus cousin straight to sleep. At least now he won't have to keep watching his back every 2 seconds. Looking up though, Shin remembers how reliable the father bass was. That thought barely lingers before his detection skill goes off again as an entire squad of predators is gathering. With the dad gone, the spawn ground has basically turned into an open buffet. Every fish and their grandma is swarming in for free food. Shin sighs, realizing he can't go back there anymore. Still, he takes one last glance at his paralyzed cousin and mutters his final good luck. Hopefully, no one tries to make him their stepbro fish if he's lucky. Out scouting new waters, Shin starts slipping into despair. He wonders if he'll ever return to human form, but quickly drags himself back to reality. First things first, survive. If he wants his old life back, he's gotta grind levels, not cry about it. As he's wandering aimlessly, a goldfish that had been hiding nearby notices him. Meanwhile, outside the lake, the fisherman is busy prepping the dad bass he just caught. Back in the water, Shin knows if he wants to survive, he's gotta level up, get bigger, get stronger, and stop babying around the spawn ground. What he really needs is a solid hideout, somewhere with obstacles to block predators. The only problem is that every good spot is already squatted by other fish who immediately shoo him away like some broke tenant trying to crash rent-free. Missing the safety of the spawning ground, Shin finally spots what looks like prime real estate nearby. But as he swims closer, his soul nearly leaves his scaly body as he notices a level 17 fish is roaming right in front of it. Shin backpedals fast, praying the monster didn't notice him. He's shocked. He's never even seen something that big before. At least the beast only hunts at night, which is great, except the sun is literally setting. Now panicking, Shin realizes he's still homeless and it's almost dinner time for predators. While roaming helplessly, he stumbles upon an empty plastic bottle stuck on a cliff. Not ideal, but it's a free apartment with 0 rent. He hesitates for a second, worried that if it falls, he'll yeet straight to the bottom. But watching predators nearby sharpening their metaphorical knives, he doesn't overthink it. He squeezes in. Inside, it's surprisingly cozy enough that Shin feels comfortable riding out the night. He tells himself tomorrow he'll look for a safer place. Lying there in his little plastic studio apartment, Shin drifts into thoughts of his past life, how he was once a big shot CEO full of ego, now downgraded to a bass living in literal garbage. He wonders what might be happening in the human world while he's stuck here grinding X points in fish mode. Shin quickly pulls his focus back to the mess that is his current fish life and opens his system window. To his surprise, a shiny new notification pops up revealing a boss hunting quest. As he's still processing this, the system casually announces that he's now the 6th survivor in the lake and flips on PvP mode. Suddenly, Shin is drowning in pop-up windows with random gamer tag names floating around his vision. His main quest updates too, telling him he needs to take down either all the bosses or all the survivors and be the last fish standing if he wants a shot at asking for whatever he desires. Shin doesn't even know what to feel, confused, annoyed, or just straight up done with this aquatic Hunger Games situation. Reality hits when he realizes, if he's the 6th survivor, that means there are 5 other unlucky humans turned fish somewhere in this lake too. And judging from the weird fish skills he's seen, they're probably also survivors. The quest wording also makes it clear, bosses or survivors, it's kill or be killed. Sure, it could ally up, but in the worst case scenario, they'll end up having to go for each other. Trying not to spiral, Shin opens the boss list, only to realize he has to actually find them himself. Before he can sulk too much, chaos erupts outside. Through the bottle's mouth, he sees a full-on fish frenzy, fins and scales flying everywhere. For once, he's actually glad he crammed himself into this trashy little hideout. But then things take a sharp left. The stalker fish from earlier casually calls out to him. Shin, the cowardly bass, dives deeper into the bottle. But then he realizes that the fish said hello in human language. Shin almost forgets how to breathe water. And just to crank up the nightmare, the goldfish actually swims right up to the bottle and starts talking. Shin realizes this goldfish might be another survivor. Checking the stats floating above its head, he sees the name Park Jinhae, level 8 goldfish. Trying to calm his nerves, Shin takes a closer look, but before he can even process, Park just straight up squeezes himself into the bottle. Shin, horrified, blurts out the first insult he can think of, calls him double cheeseburger, and tries to shove him back out. Park, clearly offended, argues that he's being too harsh, saying he was just happy to see another survivor. Shin, meanwhile, is losing it. All this yapping feels like a flashing neon sign for predators, and he can't shake the suspicion that Park might actually be trying to draw attention on purpose. Playing it cool, Shin quickly apologizes and warns him to shut it before something big and hungry shows up. He even offers Park the chance to leave the bottle entirely. Secretly, Shin is already planning to bolt the moment he gets a chance. But Park has other problems, as Fin is stuck in the bottle entrance. Bro, that's not your fin. That's your fat stomach wedged in the doorway. Park requests a push, but Shin is hesitant, thinking it might be a trap to lure him closer so Park can eat him. Hearing no response, Park starts wailing and thrashing around, trying to get out. But in the process, he also shakes the bottle. To Shin's shock, this reckless move might actually attract predators instead of saving them. For the time being, Shin decides to help him. On the count of 3, he uses his dash skill on Park's bloated face. It works. The fish is finally squeezing out of the opening. But with the impact, the bottle starts floating and carried by the momentum, bounces straight into the boss dungeon, the blue dome spawning grounds. From inside, Shin can feel the presence of the blue dome outside, which is also the first boss on the list. Shin, just to double check, peeks out of the bottle, a move that immediately backfires. The blue dome notices him and slams its entire body into the bottle. Inside, Shin takes the full brunt of the impact, losing health points as he gets yeeted along with the bottle. The sheer force leaves him stunned. He can't figure out how this thing is so strong. Then the system window pops up, confirming it's the blue dome. But Shin is confused as blue gills aren't supposed to be this massive. As he tries to process it, the beast shakes the bottle violently again. Shin peeks once more, debating whether he should make a run for it, but quickly reminds himself that there's no way he can outspeed this oversized river monster. Before he can think further, the dome smashes into the bottle again, dealing another chunk of damage to Shin's HP. Seeing all it, our boy knows that bluegills were originally bred as food, but ended up conquering the rivers of the entire country. They're ruthless, stuffing anything that moves straight into their mouths and guarding their spawning grounds with terrifying obsession. Now that obsession is locked on Shin. Trapped inside the bottle, our fishy boy realizes he's in a tight spot. Fight or flight isn't much of an option. Luckily, he still has temporary resistance, letting him tank the insane hits for now. And while the blue dome looks hella strong, at the end of the day, it's still just a fish raging against a plastic bottle. That thought keeps Shin calm, at least for the moment. For the time being, while getting slammed around by the bluegill, Shin forces himself to stay calm. He realizes he needs to get out of the spawning zone, or at least wait until the fish tires itself out before making a break for it. Just as he's thinking this through, the attacks suddenly stop. Believing the bluegill is gone, Shin peeks outside, only to see the monster channeling its level 3 twist attack before slamming the bottle down with brutal force. The impact is so strong it sends the plastic bottle flying across the water. The bluegill doesn't let up, immediately follows, checking if Shin survived, then keeps smashing the bottle over and over while Shin struggles for his life. The big guy isn't giving him even a second to breathe. Shin knows if the gill uses that twist attack again, it's basically GG. With no other choice, he braces himself and decides to endure the hits, reading the attack pattern carefully. Every slam chips away at his health, but he holds on, waiting for his moment. Finally, the gill winds up another twist attack and launches it straight at the bottle, this time crushing it completely. But Shin reacts instantly, dashing out of the wreckage and making a desperate run for it. He knows one thing for sure: as a father guarding his eggs, the bluegill won't abandon its spawning grounds. All Shin has to do is escape the zone. But just as he's nearly out, a warning pings across his vision, informing that his stamina bar is running dangerously low. As Shin keeps pressing forward, the bluegill left behind suddenly screeches with a level 3 domination skill, like it just stubbed a fin. The sound rattles Shin's brain like dial-up internet, freezing him in place as waves of pain shoot through his body. For a second, he's just confused, wondering if this is lag, a stroke, or both. Then it clicks. This is a domination skill, and before he can even process how screwed he is, the water in front of him starts filling up fast. Dozens of bluegills materialize out of nowhere, all glaring at him like he just wandered into the wrong neighborhood. Meanwhile, our goldfish buddy Park is still upside down, recovering from the earlier face dash. He finally gathers himself, but before he can even process what's going on, the bluegill charges from behind, ready for the kill. To the fish's surprise, a blinding flash erupts as Park's hidden power kicks in, forcing the predator to reel back. Park, glowing like a cheap flashlight, swims off searching for Shin. Back in the chaos, Shin is getting tag-teamed by an entire squad of bluegills. He spams dash to stay ahead, but his mind races, trying to figure out why there are so many of them. Is this really just the skill of a single fish? His stamina bar is burning out fast, and he knows he can't keep it up for long. Just when things look bad, he spots a cluster of rocks, perfect hiding spots. But then his eyes catch something even better, or worse. An old fishing net tangled near the rocks. It looks like it's been sitting there for ages, but Shin also knows hiding in it could go either way, safe haven or straight up prison. While he hesitates, one of the bluegills slams right into him, biting half his body like a free sample at Costco. His health bar nosedives, alarms blaring in his head. Shin knows if he doesn't get out now, it's game over. With no choice, he forces another dash, ripping himself free from the fish's mouth. The escape works, but his insides feel like microwave spaghetti, and his health drops to critical red. His stamina isn't looking any better, practically empty. As he flees with what little strength he has left, a memory flashes back to the day his wife was in labor. He had just returned from work, exhausted, but the moment he held her hand, everything else faded away. That heartfelt memory pushes him forward, even as his body screams to give up. Shin's wife had been nervous, but she reassured him it was okay for him to feel the same as a first-time father. That moment carved something new into him. He finally had someone to protect. He also recalled his talk with Kang after his child's birth, where he announced he'd stop going fishing with him. Kang had been caught off guard by the sudden decision, but Shin explained he had bigger goals now, a busier path ahead. Kang accepted it with a smile, yet deep down it hadn't sat right with him, and the rest became history. Now back in the waters, Shin is thrashing desperately to avoid being devoured by the monster bluegills. Fueled by anger from his dream, he manages to slip ahead of their snapping jaws. Still, the question haunts him. Where exactly did he mess up in life? All he ever wanted was to climb a little higher, to be just a bit more ambitious. As those thoughts weigh heavy on him, Shin dashes straight into the old fishing net hidden among the rocks. The bluegills hesitate, circling warily outside. Trapped, Shin spots a rusty hook tangled in the mesh, but his body is already on the verge of collapse. Stamina drained, health dangerously low. Cornered with nowhere left to run, he makes his choice. He tightens his fins, eyes blazing, and prepares to face the swarm head-on. If nothing else, he's confident he can at least slap the daylight out of the first fool who dares come at him. After a tense pause, one of the bluegills finally dares to push its head through the net. With a sinister gleam in its eye, it unleashes its conquer skill, sending out a thunderous sound wave that blasts through the water, rattling Shin's skull and ringing in his ears. Stunned and half-dazed, Shin nearly loses focus. The predator lunges, aiming to finish him off. But our fishy boy isn't going down that easily. Gripping the rusty hook, Shin drives it straight into the bluegill's eye. The fish thrashes violently, then collapses in agony, paralyzed on the spot. The others lurking outside the net freeze in shock. For a moment, their confidence falters, but they don't swim away. They linger, waiting for their chance to strike. Inside the net, Shin's chest burns with fury. He glares at them and spits his defiance into the water. If they dare come at him, he'll make sure they're sizzling hot oil the moment he turns human again. One bluegill takes the warning as a challenge. It surges forward, summoning its own conquer skill, sending another crushing wave through the net. Shin, drained of stamina but fueled by sheer willpower, plants himself and refuses to back down. But his luck runs out. His body finally gives in, collapsing into unconsciousness as his stamina bar hits zero. In those fading seconds, his thoughts drift not to the monsters, not to revenge, but to his wife and child. His only hope is that this isn't the end, that he'll get one more chance to set things right. Just as Shin's hope fades into nothingness, a sudden flash of radiant light erupts around him. It's Park. He's back, charging straight into the chaos to save him. Despite shaking and calling out, Shin's body hangs limp, slipping further toward the void. With no other option, Goldfish thrusts his hand forward, urging Shin to grab on. Summoning the last shred of willpower, Shin stretches out his fin. For a terrifying second, it seems he won't make it, but finally their hands connect. Another blinding flash explodes through the water. When it fades, the bluegills freeze in disbelief. The trap is empty. To their eyes, Shin and Park have simply vanished. Meanwhile, in his unconscious state, Shin drifts into memories of his childhood. Back then, all he wanted was to grow into a good father, someone who could earn enough to protect his family. But misfortune never stopped hitting. His last caretaker, his grandmother, passed away, and sitting at her funeral, he overheard whispers that she died from working overtime despite being terribly ill. The realization hit him hard. In this world, everything runs on money, and without it, even parents and loved ones can slip away. Back in the present, Shin somehow manages to wake up, hanging on with just a single health bar left. The first thing he sees, though, is Park lying on the ground, completely paralyzed. Shocked, Shin yells out, but Park quickly snaps him back into focus. Shin instinctively grows defensive, questioning his intentions, but the memory of being saved lingers. He realizes that the light he saw earlier might have come from Park, though despite the rescue, Shin's body is in rough shape. Shin knows that if Park decides to pull anything shady, he has no way to defend himself, which only means she isn't hostile. With that thought, he decides to play along until his stamina recovers. He apologizes for his earlier reaction and even thanks her for saving his life, which brings a visible sense of relief to Park. She goes on to introduce herself, and it turns out she's actually a 24-year-old Gooner girl in real life rather than a man. When Shin introduces himself, she's a little surprised to learn he's pushing his late 30s and isn't sure how to address him. Shin, however, doesn't care much about titles or pronouns and just keeps things formal with honorifics. Park explains that she had been worried when Shin disappeared and searched for him everywhere. Thanks to her alert screen, she managed to track him down. The mention of an alert screen leaves Shin a bit confused until she explains that the system notified her when one of the survivors was fighting a boss. Following the direction, she ended up here. Park takes some pride in the fact that despite the danger, she still came to help, and Shin realizes just how much risk she took. Thinking it over, Shin pieces together something unsettling. If Park got the alert when he fought the boss, then the other survivors likely received it too. That means they might all be gathering in the same place. The quest itself states that they can either cooperate to kill the boss or compete and kill each other, which could make things a whole lot worse with more people around. Shin knows human nature leans toward greed, and for all he knows, even the so-called stupid goldfish might just be playing dumb. While Shin's thoughts spiral like some FBI-level investigation, Park snaps him out of it, calling him out for zoning off. He finds it a bit annoying but apologizes anyway, asking her to repeat the question. Park asks him why he ended up trapped in the net, and Shin explains that he had been running from the boss and figured the trap was the only place he could fight back. Hearing about the boss unsettles Park, since the fish was massive, and she wonders if being eaten by it would actually mean death. Shin confirms it, though inside he's already thinking about how to complete the quest. He knows he could take on the main boss and get rid of him, but there's also the option of targeting other strong fish, though doing that alone feels far too risky. Meanwhile, Park nervously asks if they should try to fight the boss now or wait for the others to gather. Shin, however, keeps his real thoughts to himself. With each skill in his arsenal, he knows devouring the big guy could give him some overpowered abilities. Instead, he tells Park that gathering survivors would be dangerous and lays out a plan to deal with the bluegills together, just the two of them. He takes the lead, confident in his advantage underwater thanks to his years of fisherman experience, and Park follows along. As they move, Shin suddenly turns and asks how Park ended up as a fish in the first place. Deep down, he's already decided she'll be useful for his plan. Park freezes, and with that question, a horrifying memory rushes back. The night she was kidnapped by her neighbor. Park's memory spills out. She had escaped from the car she was being transported in and ran through a forest, desperate to get away. Eventually, she reached a dead end. That was the moment she tripped, tumbling straight into the river, and that's how she ended up like this. She cuts the story short, not wanting to linger on it. Shin doesn't push. Instead, she turns the question on him. He admits he was betrayed by a colleague and tossed into the ocean, pretty much buried alive. Almost immediately, Park regrets asking it, wishing she hadn't asked or answered in the first place. Using his detect skill, Shin suddenly picks up on something. The mood shifts as a level 17 Adonis Interrupta appears, the same kind they encountered before. It seems to be searching for prey. Just as Shin tries to stay quiet, Park sneezes, and the monster immediately locks onto them. Shin can't believe it, muttering to himself that nothing has gone right since meeting her, though deep down he knows she saved his life. The monster charges, but Park suddenly unleashes her skill, luminescence. The burst of glowing light floods the water, blinding the predator and sending it crashing into rocks. It gives them the perfect chance to escape. Shin, however, is blinded as well, his eyes glowing red like our Unk on crack, while Park awkwardly admits she didn't mean to blind him too. They manage to get away, Shin's vision still burning, and as Park tries to lighten the mood, he brushes her off, saying it's nothing. Soon after, she stumbles against the sand and insists they take a break. Shin, half annoyed, half resigned, mutters that he should just throw her away, but his thoughts drift. From his years as a fisherman, he's learned that humans lack sharp teeth or thick skin, but their intelligence is their true weapon. He explains how in spring snots swim upstream, drawing predators, which in turn draw anglers looking to catch those predators. That, he notes, is the foundation of hunting bluegills. Park asks how much further they need to go, and soon they arrive upstream, the prime hunting ground. There, an angler is fishing. His bait gets a sudden tug, but when he pulls, he misses, wondering if he imagined it. His wife and son reassure him it's no big deal since he's not a professional fisherman, though he quietly has 30 years of experience. Shin knows if they touch the wrong hook, the angler could reel them in, which is why he carefully avoids it and takes another path. Soon, the two of them stumble on some discarded bait. For them, it's free food. Park digs in happily, exclaiming how delicious it is, while Shin just stares, wondering if she's completely losing it. Shin admits he's never met someone quite like Park before and even wonders if it's better to avoid people like her. Still, he decides it's fine and starts eating as well. Park just smiles and chuckles, noticing that he's beginning to show his softer side. Soon Shin suddenly starts gagging, spitting food out. Park is startled, worried something's wrong. He insists he's fine but questions if she really finds this stuff tasty. As he forces himself to chew again, a memory comes back. Back in Korea, there were attempts to cultivate bass as a high-quality protein source. The problem was that once they reached a certain size, they only ate live prey. That thought makes him realize his body might be rejecting this food because he's getting bigger. His stomach twists again, and he throws up even harder. But then he notices something strange. His experience points go up. 5 XP just from swallowing. That changes everything. If eating this disgusting stuff gives him EXP, then leveling up is only a matter of forcing it down. He keeps swallowing, gagging through every bite, convincing himself it's worth it. His mind drifts to his family and Chairman Kang, and with a bitter determination, he tells himself that all he has to do is keep eating, just swallow, and he'll grow stronger. By the end of it, he's collapsed, ready to puke his guts out, but he's also reached level 4. Park checks on him, asking if he's okay, but Shin just lies on the ground, refusing to talk, feeling like he'll vomit if he opens his mouth again. She eats too and casually climbs all the way up to level 9, way ahead of him. That stings, but Shin tells himself it's just the start. When the sun will rise, the fish around them will start waking up, and Shin knows they'll be feeding again soon. He needs more food if he wants to keep up. That's when he spots something interesting. The scene shifts back to the mainland, where the angler family waits. The father reassures his son that patience is key, promising grilled pork belly, lobster, and ramen later. He even points out that lobster are easier to catch at night. Back in the water, Shin eyes a lobster near the net. He knows it might be a trap, but the XP is worth the risk. He swallows it whole and instantly gains 15 XP, boosting him to level 5. A small grin spreads as he mutters to himself that if his growth matched his effort, he'd be unstoppable. Nearby, Park floats quietly like an innocent goldfish, her eyes fixed on the family above. Watching the father, mother, and child together makes her heart ache with envy. She whispers to herself how much she wants something like that too. After a while, since the angler hasn't caught any fish, he starts getting suspicious that something might be off. He calls for his kid, but his wife says the boy went to his room to rest. However, the freaky boy isn't in the room, he's actually out back tugging on the fishing line. Park suddenly notices this and remembers Shin instructing her to inform him if it ever happened. She suddenly flashes back to Shin, telling her he could get lobster from the hunting net. Panic hits. She drops the food she's eating and yells out in fear. Right beneath her, a lobster lurks, and nearby the net tightens. Shin, now level 6 and noticeably bigger, spots her rushing toward him. Before he can react, she shouts for him to get out of there. But in that instant, she's slashed. Another survivor appears, a level 13 named Jai. Jian, and the danger skyrockets. Shin realizes the explosion earlier must have been this guy's skill. Park writhes in pain, saying it hurts more than she can handle, and Shin knows he has to save her. But then a vibration shakes the net, pulling him in. Shin starts to panic as he can't even escape the net. The entrance is too narrow, and the pressure is holding him in. He then looks back at Park and yells at her to snap out of it and fight back. The girl, however, is trembling in pain and can only watch as Shin gets taken away in the trap. It feels like the closest call yet. Park, bleeding and desperate, pleads with Jian. She recognizes he's also human and begs him to join forces. Instead, his massive heated claws snap forward, showing no mercy. The guy uses pincer skill, creating a loud blast damaging and sending Park flying across the riverbed. She again tries to convince him to join the forces, but this lobster is freaky. He makes it clear, he's not interested in teamwork. Park tries to shield herself with her luminescence, but Jian keeps pressing his attack. Meanwhile, Shin is stuck in the net as the child above hauls it up. He curses under his breath, blaming the kid for pulling the trap without warning. The father scolds the boy, asking why he even touched it. When they haul Shin out of the water, the dad eyes him skeptically, wondering what kind of fish he is. Maybe a bass. Shin fumes, calling the kid a brat in his head. The father shakes his head, saying he didn't set the trap to catch something like this, and orders the boy to toss it away. But the kid insists on keeping it, ignoring his father's warning that it's a bad fish species. Shin, still trapped and furious, silently begs the dad to talk some sense into his son. Instead, the father gives up with a shrug, telling the boy to do as he pleases. The boy grins with a tooth missing, his smile menacing. He decides to name Shin Jaws and asks his dad if he can put the fish in the jar. The dad don't care, so the kid makes up his mind to make this Shin new home. Shin's blood runs cold, calling the kid a maniac in his mind as the child reaches out to grab him. Back in the water, Park lies on the ground, bleeding heavily. She stares upward, barely able to move, wondering why everything has spiraled into this nightmare. She scolds herself and decides she's going to be brave and fight. She slightly peeks, and to her shock, the lobster is right behind her. In her mind, she wonders if she can convince him by talking, but knows that if they can't communicate, it could go pretty wrong. As she's lost in thought, the dude spots her and straight up uses his pincer spell, hurting her even more. Park is literally getting beat up at this point. She tries to reason with him, but the lobster isn't having it, dismissing her words as nonsense. He claims that after defeating all the bosses, one of their wishes would come true. Park doesn't buy it. She wonders why he's making decisions without even trying something different. According to her, there might be a chance that they can work together to be human again. She points out that the lobster is hunting unknown bosses and people and is wasting his time. However, the freaky lobster isn't having it, and with a final goodbye, he launches his claw attack on her. Park also retaliates by firing off her level 1 laser beam. It completely wipes out one of his arms. Turns out she had a deadly move hidden all along. Meanwhile, our fishy boy is about to get grabbed by a kid and his HP is dropping fast since he doesn't even have water. The grip is harsh, and the impact makes things worse. He tries to hold on, but he's about to be stuffed into a jar. He uses his level 1 ability, Rush, to dash away, barely escaping toward the water. He's surprisingly tiny, barely the size of a fist hole, and almost slips away. Just then, the kid's mom steps on him, making things even worse as the kid tries to grab him again. Back with Park, the lobster is furious after losing an arm. He accuses her of pretending to be naive just to lower his guard. She wants to know why he's attacking other survivors, but he twists her words, claiming survivors always betray each other eventually. She looks uneasy, not knowing if he's right. He points out how articulate she is, mocking her by bringing up another survivor who got stuck in a barrel. Park admits he's making her feel bad, but decides she'll let him go if he answers one question. She asks if completing the quest will let one wish anything they want, then one person can wish for everyone, so why don't he join forces? He turns it back on her, asking if she had one wish, wouldn't she want to eliminate him? Then he wonders aloud if it's even possible for anyone to go back to being human after defeating all the bosses. He admits it's probably not, and accuses her of hiding her skills until the end. She pushes back, saying she isn't hiding anything, she just doesn't want to rely on violence. The lobster brushes it off, claiming the outcome will be the same anyway. Even if all the survivors unite, he says, they still wouldn't stand a chance against that monster, saying that he remembers himself and his friends standing in front of a huge boss fish. The goldfish looks shocked at the idea, but is told they'll all change their minds once they see the monster. When asked what kind of monster, the boss's limbs light up faintly, and he simply says they'll find out. Suddenly, he uses a level 1 digger. The guy digs hard, remembering when someone precious to him died right in front of him. He recalls the desperate cry and the pleading to take a life he couldn't save and the helplessness of that moment. Opening her eyes, she sees smoke rising as a raft appears. Time is running out. She wonders if, the next time they meet, she'll still try to pretend to be kind. Meanwhile, outside, our fish floats inside a jar, repeatedly hitting the glass walls. He stares straight ahead, then closes his eyes. Nothing is working. There's no point wasting time. In the jar, he admits to himself he won't succeed alone. He needs to wait until the kid opens it. Until then, he's stuck. The jar rests on a table, and he curses under his breath that the time is slipping away. Just then, the news breaks on TV. 4 days after the CEO of the Seishun group went missing, a suicide note is found in his office. Shin's eyes snap open in shock. According to acquaintances, CEO Shin had been suffering from depression caused by constant stress, and his condition had recently worsened. The host reports that police are still searching but have found nothing. Hearing that, Shin clenches his teeth in anger and mutters a name. Meanwhile, by the river, Kang is fishing and fingering his ear while grumbling about being scolded. Another man appears behind him, asking why his ears keep itching. Kang turns, refers to the man as Department Head Kim, and asks for assurance regarding Shin's disappearance. Kim brushes it off and tells him not to worry about the CEO's case. Everything's going according to plan. No one will suspect a thing. Holding a fishing rod, he insists they do everything carefully. Suddenly, his phone rings. He sets the rod aside and answers, listening quietly. Kim looks away as the voice on the other end mentions where Shin is. Inside the jar, the fish thrashes against the glass, his frustration spilling over as nothing seems to work. The ruined life looms in his mind, and uncertainty gnaws at him as he has no idea what's happening outside or whether his family is safe. Panic sharpens into resolve as he realizes the first step is clear. He must escape this jar. The child gripping his prison will not hold him forever. Desperation turns into strategy as he begins searching for a way to spark the boy's interest, something that might finally convince him to let go. Just then, the boy's dad calls him out to eat more, but the boy refuses, saying he's already full. The hero, startled, thinks for a moment that the child might be returning. Soon, the boy steps inside, and urgency rises within Shin as he wonders how to make the child lose interest in him. The boy bowed to the kid and offers food, but then notices the jar. Inside, he notices that the fish is floating upside down and is not moving at all. Meanwhile, Shin knows if he even twitches a little, the boy won't let him go. For a moment, the trick works. The boy looks surprised and almost believes the fish is dead. Elsewhere, Kang is on the phone with Shin's wife, tired and worried. He says he hasn't slept properly since hearing the news about Shin and mutters about still searching, though he tells to stay patient. The police are on it, after all. Shin's wife on the call suspects Kang responsible for it, but he politely denies, claiming there's no way he'd do something wrong. Kang assures her that Shin is like family to him, so there's no way he would do such a thing. He says they should wait for the police search and decide their next move then. Shin's wife, sounding apologetic, requests to meet Kang in person the next day to discuss something. Kang tells her he'll let her know after checking his schedule. With that, they say their goodbyes and the call ends. Kang then turns to Department Head Kim, ordering him to find out what the lady is up to. After that, he casually reels in his fishing rod, muttering about how this whole matter is starting to bother him. Meanwhile, back with Shin, the boy takes out the jar to throw the fish away. The trick worked. With an emotional expression, the boy opens the jar and yeets him into the water. As Shin sinks down, he remembers how his wife once suggested going on a family trip together. Now looking at the fisherman's family on the shore, he regrets never going. Back in the water, Shin calls out for Park but can't find her anywhere. Nearby, he notices scratches and marks that suggest a real fight went down here, with marks of lobster skills scattered all around. That makes him worried, and he's surprised not to find Park even after searching for a while. Accepting that she might have been caught, Shin knows he can't leave her alone and needs to do something about it. With that resolve, he starts searching again. While he's at it, his danger detecting skill suddenly pings. He quickly turns and spots a bluegill charging straight at him. Fueled by frustration, Shin dashes forward and slams it in the face, leaving it paralyzed. Feeling confident, since he's grown a lot, he lets himself flex a little. But right then, another big fish lunges in, and instead of going for him, it swallows the paralyzed bluegill whole. Shin is stunned, and what shocks him even more is the sight of multiple largemouth bass moving in for the hunt. He knows these bass usually go out hunting to regain strength after spawning, but this time it feels off. They're tearing into each other instead. There's nothing good in the eyes of those hunters, so Shin decides it's smarter to hide for now. He slips into a rocky nook as his temporary hideout, only sneaking out every now and then to pick off a smaller fish. It's not too risky, and it gives him steady growth, all while those massive bass keep prowling the waters outside. However, he also knows he doesn't have much time left, and Chairman Kang is doing everything he can to erase Shin's name from existence. Shin knows he has to get home as soon as possible, which means he can't just keep waiting for that goldfish. At the same time, he isn't sure if he can take down that bluegill alone, and there's always the risk of running into other hostile survivors. Each one is loaded with different skills, and he figures the others probably have their own tricks too. He quickly checks his stats and realizes he has grown a little, thanks to Chairman Kang's fishing experience. Still, it's dangerous to fight another survivor, or even worse, a boss. So even if he doesn't like it, he needs that goldfish. But the thought nags at him that is she even alive anymore? As he wonders, his eyes fall on his eat skill, and a memory from his past suddenly surfaces. He remembers giving a presentation to high-ranking company executives, pushing for a major change in their outdated system. That presentation was meant to prove his worth, but outside the meeting room, there was already a loud uproar over his suggestion. Back in the present, Shin knows that in his previous life he ate people's jobs to rank himself up, and now he can do the same here in the water. Thinking about it brings back his wife and kids, and he regrets never having a proper conversation with her. When he checks his stats again, he's a little shocked to see there are still some unused points. Realizing he can boost his other stats, he gets annoyed that he didn't notice it earlier. On top of that, he also receives his Someone memory reward and activates it right away. As the memory seeps in, he suddenly finds himself in Chairman Kang's office, where his wife is sitting across from Kang, looking pretty down. Meanwhile, in the shallow waters somewhere else, Park is lying wedged under a tree root. Suddenly, the voice wakes her up. She thinks it's Shin, but to her shock, it's actually a hungry freak of a fish staring her down and ready to eat her alive. Back in the memory, Shin can't hold his anger seeing the man who betrayed him sitting right there. Instinctively, he swings, but since it's only a memory, his punch passes straight through Kang's face. That leaves Shin more worried about his wife, since being here with him might be dangerous for her. Soon, Kang addresses Shin's wife, showing clear annoyance that she dared to call him out over her husband's disappearance. He presses further, asking if she actually ran a background check to reach that conclusion. Hearing that, Shin is shocked, while his wife explains that she only wants to clear her mind. She then starts questioning Kang about his whereabouts on the day Shin disappeared. The questions irritate Kang, and he tells her to just go home for now. He insists that since Shin helped him achieve everything he has today, he has no reason to harm him. Kang tries hard to clear himself, pointing out that she's targeting the wrong person in this confusing situation. Under that emotional pressure, Shin's wife finally agrees, apologizes, and leaves the office. Listening to all this, Shin is sweating bullets. But then he notices something else, Chairman Kang talking quietly to Department Head Kim after his wife leaves. Kang asks him about the task he was assigned, specifically handling Shin's phone. Kim thinks he did well, but Kang suddenly shouts at him, saying it all went wrong and the phone's location has already been tracked. Kim quickly apologizes, promising to find out what happened, but according to Kang, it's already too late. Instead, he orders Kim to get rid of Shin's wife altogether. Hearing that, Shin's eyes roll back in anger, and he lunges at Kang. Even though he's only a ghost in this memory, the sheer pressure of his rage startles Kang for a moment, though he can't actually see anything. When Shin snaps out of the memory, he tries to calm himself down, but he's in a state of pure panic and anxiety. He starts thinking about how he can become human again, and the only way is by taking down all the survivors or the bosses quickly. But for that, he needs help. Originally, Shin wanted to team up with Park and slowly work toward the boss, but now he realizes he has to move faster before it's too late. Determined, he heads toward the shallow waters and begins collecting fishing hooks buried in the sand. While doing this, a softer memory comes back. He remembers bringing beers to his wife while she was working at the superstore. That day, he also took her on Kang's fishing trip and introduced her to him. Kang started complimenting them, saying they looked good together, but Shin, being a bit shy, brushed it off and claimed they were just friends. Kang, trying to play wingman, pointed out that Shin was like family to him and practically tied to him already. Back in the present, Shin can't believe how badly things turned out after that. As he's lost in thought, a system window suddenly notifies him of a bluegill boss nearby. Already prepared and fueled by his memory, Shin challenges the fish to come at him. The boss sees him and charges forward, while Shin stands firm with his hooks out, ready to strike the big guy down. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the level 9 bass that spotted Park in her vulnerable state keeps trying to eat her. She uses her luminescent skill, but because of her condition, it goes straight into an 18-hour cooldown. With nothing else she can do, the massive fish body slams her out of nowhere, sending her crashing into the sand. In pain, Park curses her life, but the bass is just hungry and goes in for the kill with its huge mouth wide open. The strike lands hard, sending her bouncing again and dropping her health points to nearly 0. She slips into a suspended state from all the damage, leaving her body limp as the level 9 bass closes in to finish the meal. But just as it charges, another bass slams into it mid-attack, knocking it back. This newcomer plants itself in front of Park, standing firm, ready to protect her. Back on Shin's side, he stands face to face with the bluegill boss as the system notifies that a raid has started. The water falls silent for a moment and Shin quickly launches himself first, aiming straight for the fish's eye. To his shock, the bluegill dodges with ease and retaliates, slamming him down and sending him bouncing across the ocean floor. That single hit wipes out half of his health points and the bluegill doesn't let up, it charges again. Knowing one mistake here could mean death, Shin darts back into his rock hideout. There he uses his remaining status points, putting 3 into strength. Feeling a rush of new power, he goes back on the attack and manages to sink his hook into the bluegill's body. He ties the hook to a rock with a stick, setting up a trap that lets him move to the next position. But to his surprise, with just one violent jerk, the bluegill rips free from the hook and body slams him again, knocking his health down to almost nothing. Shin is badly hurt now, realizing he can't just rush in. He'll need to take his time and strategize. He knows of an obstacle the bluegill can't cross, and there he sets a hidden hook to use as a backup plan. For now, he retreats to his hideout, clutching the hook and deciding it's better to leave the bluegill's nest for the time being while he works out a proper strategy. Just then, the bluegill uses its powerful screw attack skill on the rocks where Shin is hiding. The moment it strikes, Shin sees an opening, he dashes forward and drives his hook straight into the bluegill's forehead cross. Even so, the fish whips its tail, sending Shin crashing hard onto the ground. He's terrified. Despite all that effort, the boss still looks like it's in perfect condition. As the fish charges up its next skill, Shin suddenly notices a cluster of eggs on the ground. Without hesitation, he starts munching on them like popcorn. The quick snack gives him experience, and to his luck, he levels up. His body grows, and both his strength and stamina are fully restored. Seeing this, the bluegill roars and unleashes its conquer spell, screaming at the top of its lungs. Shin finds the noise annoying until he realizes to his horror that the roar has summoned an entire army of bluegill to the area. Even so, he forces himself to calm down, holding on to his confidence. One way or another, this victory belongs to him. Outside, it's pouring like the heavens just rage quit, but inside the cave, Shin's busy playing hide and seek with angry bluegills. Dude's tucked in the rocks like a discount ninja, while the fish are out there rage, slamming the walls, trying to squeeze in. Using the chance, Shin smashes one of them and sends it straight into hibernation. Even with one down, he knows there are plenty more swarming in, and they're all here because he ate their eggs. Things get worse when the bluegill boss he fought earlier starts recovering its stamina, like some Dark Souls miniboss recharging while you're busy fighting minions. Thinking fast, Shin starts trash-talking, threatening to eat the rest of their eggs once they're gone. The bluegills, hearing that, lose it completely. The boss launches another screw attack against the rocks, shaking Shin's hideout apart. The moment the attack ends, Shin bursts out of hiding and slams his hook into the boss's face with everything he's got. But it doesn't work. The fish counters and smashes him hard against the rocks, knocking his health down to almost half again. Enraged, Shin dashes straight toward the eggs. Seeing Shin run off while the bluegill boss roars with its conquer skill, pointing out to the others that the small fry is escaping. They all scatter, searching for him, while Shin is casually hiding and munching on eggs like a maniac. Bro, since when did he unlock his inner egg cannibal mode? Whatever it is, he's farming experience with every egg he eats. Before the bluegills notice, he manages to level up again, restoring both his health and stamina. He ducks back into hiding, then repeats the cycle, rushing out to smack the boss with his hook before retreating again. His plan is simple: wear the boss down until it finally breaks. On his way back into the rocks, Shin spots 2 fish waiting nearby. He charges at them, using his hook and dash skill to fend them off. But just as he pulls his hook back, his danger detection pings, and to his shock, the bluegill boss has already fired off a power strike. The hit slams into him, cutting his health in half. The blow leaves Shin badly hurt, and to make it worse, all the hooks he had gathered are now gone. Retrieving them would be risky. The sight makes him recall his fishing days, back when one of his hooks sank deep into a catch. Concerned, Shin had asked Kang if the fish would die. Kang explained that a healthy fish might survive, but the tired one they caught that day probably wouldn't make it. This is where timing matters most. With only one hook left in his hand, Shin knows the bluegill must be exhausted too, so he decides to go all in. He dumps all his remaining stat points and charges with dash, slipping straight into the big guy's mouth in a blink. Inside, he drives the hook deep into the bluegill's throat, hoping to hang on until the beast finally collapses. But before he can settle in, the bluegill slams itself against the ground, jerking the hook loose. The impact rattles Shin, but he forces himself back into position, shoving the hook in again and clinging to it for dear life. He knows this is his last chance, and to his luck, it works. After a violent struggle, the bluegill finally crashes down, landing just inches from its eggs. It dies protecting them. Crawling out of the beast, Shin looks more annoyed than relieved, grumbling inside that it took all this just to bring it down. Then right on cue, a system window pops up revealing that the boss is defeated. A bonus quest update appears, and suddenly a new quest unlocks where he will have to meet his wife. I mean, what the hell? Meanwhile, outside in the real world, Shin's wife is doing everything she can to catch even the slightest trace of where he might be. She follows the trail to the shoreline, the last location pinged by his phone. Her father, though, is worried for her. He keeps urging her to wait for the cops, insisting they'll handle it, but she doesn't trust them, not one bit. He points out that no locals saw Shin here and fears his daughter might collapse from the stress. But she's not the type to sit around and mope. She knows if she doesn't act fast, her husband could be framed for suicide. That's why she came here herself. Trying to dig for clues, she questions a nearby local. At first, the guy's irritated, ranting about all the anglers crowding the water, claiming he never really looks at their faces anyway. Shin's wife doesn't back down, pressing harder. Even the smallest detail, she insists, could help. After thinking for a moment, the man recalls something unusual. A fisherman who came by last week, flanked by 2 guards. The guards kept addressing him as chairman. The moment she hears this, Shin's wife freezes. The dots are starting to connect, and the picture they're forming is nothing short of terrifying. Back in the water, Shin is exhausted, but thanks to taking down the boss, he's now cashing in on the rewards. First up, a shiny skill enhancement card, along with a nice boost to his stats. Still, despite the goodies, Shin can't help but feel uneasy seeing the giant fish boss lying there dead in front of him. His eyes drift toward the cluster of eggs nearby. For a split second, he wonders, what if he eats them and grows big enough to eat the boss itself? Then common sense kicks in, and he realizes that might not be the brightest idea. Probably better to hunt for actual food. Checking his system window, he notices the enhancement reward has 2 tempting options: to leave an old skill and swap it for something new, or just buff one he already has. At first, Shin considers rolling the dice on a brand new skill, but then it hits him. He's already pretty comfy with his current setup. Why fix what isn't broken? So he dumps the enhancement into his Predator skill. Instantly, it levels up to version 2, unlocking a new passive, Devour. Basically, he can chow down on anything he takes down. Sounds metal, except there's a catch. Experience gain gets cut in half. Still, Shin shrugs it off. For now, it's a trade he's willing to make. Shin wastes no time. He quickly activates his shiny new skill and starts devouring the giant boss. With each bite, he literally becomes the menace of the lake. The once intimidating bluegills who had been flexing on him earlier are now practically peeing themselves just watching. Before they can even process what's happening, Shin casually gulps one down in a single chomp. Next, his attention shifts to the father fish protecting the eggs. In an instant, he takes him out too. Now, Shin isn't just surviving, he is the monster of this area. After scarfing down the big boys, his level shoots up fast, skyrocketing all the way to 15. A pang of guilt does hit him when he sees one of the fish's memories, but he quickly shakes it off and turns his attention back to the shiny new skills he gained from devouring. Screw attack and conquer. His eyes then wander toward the pile of eggs. Despite knowing he'll feel guilty after seeing their memories too, survival instincts scream louder. He knows he needs to eat whenever he can. But just as he's about to give in to his cannibalistic cravings, Park shows up from behind. She's surprised to see Shin again, and even more shocked to find that he's now a massive, intimidating unit. She's also quick to point out that she got the system notification about the boss raid, meaning Shin really did solo the whole thing. Shin confirms it, though inside he's a little salty about her showing up right when he was embracing his guilty pleasures. To make it worse, she's badly hurt and decides she also wants to regenerate by eating those eggs. For a brief moment, Shin seriously considers just eating her instead, since he doesn't exactly need her anymore. But before he can decide, he's left stunned. She's already stuffing her face with the eggs like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. He asked about the other survivors, but according to Park, she tried to convince them to join her, and it just didn't work out. She then starts rambling about being chased by one survivor and how another took a cheap shot at her. All the while, as she's yapping away, she's also shoving eggs into her mouth like it's movie night, leaving Shin a little shocked at how casually she's doing it. Between bites, she wonders about the boss since she can't see his body anywhere. To her disbelief, Shin casually reveals that he already ate it. She finds it incredible that he managed to consume something way bigger than himself, but Shin barely pays attention. He's too busy glued to his system window. And then his eyes go wide in shock. A bonus quest pops up, revealing that his wife has come all the way out here, desperately searching for traces of him. Without wasting a second, Shin launches himself toward the surface with everything he's got, ignoring the goldfish along the way. Raking through the water, he's hit with the most unexpected sight: his wife sitting right there on the shore, crying her heart out. To top it off, this dramatic reunion also completes his quest. She's completely losing it, screaming about how Shin told her to wait but now isn't coming back. While she's having a full-blown breakdown, our fishy boy is just frozen in shock, staring at her with no clue what to do. Even the goldfish beside him feels the weight of the moment, thinking the poor girl must be going through a brutal breakup. But then her jaw nearly hits the floor when Shin casually refers to the crying girl as Honey. That little detail suddenly makes it all way more emotional. Realizing this isn't just some girl, she might actually be Shin's wife. Meanwhile, Shin is desperately trying to call out, doing whatever he can to make his presence known, but nothing seems to work. He knows it's been a long time, and with her in that fragile state, he has no idea how she'd even respond if she saw him like this. Soon, her father arrives, holding an umbrella and gently urging her to come back, clearly worried about her health. But the girl is broken inside, consumed with anger and grief. She wants to fight against this injustice, but since her enemy is none other than Shin's boss, Kang, she has no way to speak the truth to the world. Her father tries again, suggesting she return home for now, but she refuses, determined to at least find something, even a witness, that could prove her case. Then, out of nowhere, a glowing flash erupts from the water, catching their attention. Within the light, they spot a massive bigmouth bass rising up, and they can't believe what they're seeing. It feels too surreal to be real. Standing there in all his dramatic glory is Shin, right in front of Park, who's clearly the one that used her luminant skill to make that flashy entrance. Our boy knows that even if he tries, she might not really understand him right now. The girl walks closer to the shore and gets startled when she notices a bass lurking there. Despite knowing it's pretty much pointless, Shin tries his best to assure her, through his words, that he will return one day and that she should take care of herself until then. With that unspoken promise, he turns back into the water and swims away. But then his wife hears something. She immediately asks her father for confirmation, claiming she just heard a voice she swears was Shin's. As they're talking, one of Chairman Kang's stalkers is already reporting back that they've been spotted at the scene. Meanwhile, deep underwater, Shin is in full emotional mode. He hates being stuck with a body like this, powerless to comfort her the way he wants. Park, however, is more practical, and surprisingly concerned about his wife's condition. She suggests they should just take down all the remaining bosses so Shin can finally return to his human form. But our boy isn't in the mood for logic. He's heavy in his feelings right now and honestly just wants a moment to sort himself out. Inside, he's frustrated, really frustrated. But he pulls himself together, determined to handle the tasks ahead one step at a time. As he's swimming away, the ever-hungry goldfish chimes in, reminding him about the leftover eggs. She's still starving, and honestly, letting food go to waste would just be criminal. Shin, finding her appetite more than a little weird, just goes along with it, which excites her even more. On the way, she starts poking around about his oddly detailed knowledge of aquatic life. Shin casually drops that he used to be a fisherman in his previous life. Inside, though, our boy knows the truth. Sharing food with this free-living goldfish is only going to slow his growth, and eventually, he'll need to hunt bigger prey anyway. For a split second, he even considers eating her to snag her skills, but before he can go full betrayal arc, his danger meter spikes. Out of nowhere, something slams into the ground with a thunderous crash. As the smoke clears, Shin notices it's another survivor, level 12. Choi-jong. Just as the guy is pulling himself together, another fish barrels in and slams straight into him, sending him flying like a ragdoll. The creature's eyes then lock onto Shin and Park, who are just standing there witnessing this chaos unfold. Shin remembers seeing this guy somewhere before, and the scent rolling off him makes it clear. He's another survivor. The man keeps muttering something about protecting someone, which could only mean one thing. He might actually know Park. This realization ticks Shin off because it means Park lied when she swore she hadn't met any other survivors before him. When Shin presses her, Park panics. With a trembling, stuttering voice, she blurts out that this is the same person whose voice kidnapped him. Meanwhile, the fish keeps mumbling like a half-broken zombie, repeating over and over that he's hungry. Without warning, it lunges at Shin, but our boy isn't backing down. He takes it head-on, ramming straight into it. Even after getting slammed, the guy continues to drone on about being hungry, but Shin's eyes widen as he starts piecing together who this really is. Realizing it's time to end this, Shin unleashes his screw attack, sending the poor guy crashing into the ground. The chaos is too much for Park as she tries to shield her eyes. Shin, however, is left in shock, not just at the impact, but at himself. He can't believe how powerful he's become. After all that suffering, he finally has a real skill that packs a punch, something more reliable than just rush and hope. His focus shifts back to the bass, and recognition clicks that it's the same freaky bass from earlier. Not about to let this thing slip away again, Shin readies his predator skill, fully prepared to take it down. But right then, the system window interrupts, flashing a new option saying that he can actually use the Conquer skill. It offers him the chance to subdue this level 11 bass and command it like a loyal pet. Shin is caught off guard. He didn't expect it to work on his own species, but since this fish counts as one of his kind, the system allows it. After a beat of surprise, Shin decides, yeah, he's going to try it. Just as Shin is about to use his new skill, a commotion breaks out behind him. It's the fish that got slammed earlier, now desperately pleading to Park, swearing he isn't her kidnapper. He's begging hard, practically on his fishy knees, but Park is shaking, pleading back that he should just let her go because she doesn't feel safe anywhere near him. When the guy pushes closer, Shin body slams him straight into the ground and tells Park to run instead of standing there frozen. But the girl can't move, paralyzed as memories of her kidnapping flood back. Shin plants himself in front of her like a guard dog, while the fish keeps stuttering and pleading that it really wasn't him. His desperation grows, he's shaking, muttering, begging, but Park isn't buying any of it. She snaps back at him, cursing him to die, which only enrages him further. He starts throwing a full tantrum, thrashing like a toddler denied candy, until Shin, the cockblocker, slams him again, pointing out that he's just scaring the girl more. Shin reminds him that he's the reason she ended up traumatized in the first place, but the guy doesn't even seem to hear it. He's lost in his own broken thoughts. He remembers saying hello once. He remembers when Park had just moved into his apartment building and brought him a little welcoming gift. She said hello, and that one word has been stuck in his head ever since. Now he just keeps repeating it, like a scratched record. Shin, starting to feel a little creeped out by this behavior, asks Park again if this is really the guy who kidnapped her. She confirms without hesitation, insisting that she doesn't want to deal with him even if he is another survivor, because to her, he's the one who ruined her life. Shin is left unsure what to do with this pitiful, obsessive fish. But before he can figure it out, Park casually suggests the simplest solution to just kill him. To the fish's utter shock, she's dead serious. The guy starts shedding tears and desperately moves toward Park, but Shin slams him down again. The impact sends him crashing to the ground, leaving him in a badly beaten state. He's still alive, but it seems like his mind isn't working properly. It's revealed then that in his human life, he had a brain condition that affected his speech. Doctors had suggested rehabilitation, but instead of hope, the diagnosis pushed him further into despair. Even after returning as a fish, the condition still clings to him. He tries to express something, barely managing to mutter a faint hello, yet before he can get closer, Shin slams him back down. His life had already been weighed down by this condition. Still, one day a small shift appeared when someone new moved into his apartment building. That night, though, he couldn't sleep because of the constant noise of jumping and movement upstairs. When he went to complain, he stopped before knocking as strange sounds were coming from inside. It turned out his new neighbor was live streaming, her viewers calling her Queen Jivy. Out of curiosity, he searched and found her channel, only to see 6 people watching. Feeling pity and knowing he didn't have much time left anyway, he let it go and walked away. Back in the water, nothing has changed. He keeps pushing forward, and Shin keeps slamming him down again and again with his screw attack. After so many attempts, Shin is starting to tire, but the fish, despite being badly hurt, keeps pushing forward. This worries our guy, since at this rate he'll burn through all his stamina, and the whole struggle feels meaningless. To end it, he decides to eat the fish. As Shin goes in for the bite, the guy's mind drifts back to his last moments as a human, when he first talked to his new neighbor, Park. Through her stream chat asked about her life, and she opened up about her strange experiences. For the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of hope. He kept watching her streams, even sending her small gifts. Back in the present, with Shin holding him half inside his mouth, the guy finds peace. In his own way, he believes he's fulfilling Park's wish by dying, and with that, he lets go. Press F in chat for my dude. But just as Shin fully devours him, a sudden parasite explosion skill triggers. Shin crashes to the ground, the system flashing warnings that he's contracted white disease along with several other infections. He lies upside down, looking like a dead fish, while Park panics and tries to wake him. She realizes it happened because he had been helping her, and desperation fills her as the system warns of heavy parasite infection. To her relief, Shin is still breathing, even if he's motionless and awkwardly flipped over, almost like my uncle after sniffing weed. Looking around, Park notices the eggs nearby. If Shin eats them, he might level up and recover from the infection. Grabbing onto this small hope, she lifts him up and promises to make sure he pulls through. But just as she steadies herself, a chilling sound shakes her. The same hungry, freakish fish is creeping up behind her. Somewhere else, another survivor, Kim, level 11, yells at a turtle to slow down, calling him Grandpa. The turtle Jung, level 15, however, is curious about who managed to take down the boss, since his system had already notified him about it. Kim, on the other hand, is worried. He insists it isn't safe to wander around like this, since they could run into other hostile survivors. But Grandpa sees it differently, believing there's a chance they could actually work with whoever is strong enough to defeat the boss. Another survivor, Lee, shares Kim's concern, finding the whole idea risky. Still, Jung pushes forward, urging them to follow. Kim argues again, suggesting they should wait until sunrise since it's getting dark. Before he can even finish his sentence, a massive fish bursts out of nowhere and swallows Grandpa whole. The system instantly notifies them that it's another boss encounter. Damn, Gramps should have listened. The group is left in utter shock as the system flashes a warning that they've entered the feeding grounds of the Drought King. To their relief, the chatty Grandpa Turtle is still alive, clamped inside the monster fish's mouth, using his hardening skill to hold out. He wants them to strike now and create an opening to escape. But Kim freezes up completely, paralyzed by fear. Instead of acting, he hesitates, leaving the old grandpa behind to face his fate alone. Meanwhile, back in the shallow waters, a group of level 19 bass are on the hunt while Park hides behind a rock with Shin's limp body. She knows his condition is worsening and turning back isn't an option. Despite the predators circling nearby, she has no choice but to make a move. It would take far too long to wait them out. Determined, she picks Shin up and makes a run for it. But luck turns against them when one of the bass notices. It tries to suck them into its mouth, but Park quickly casts her luminescent spell, blinding it and the others just in time. In her mind, she stands firm. She will protect Shin no matter what. Then, to her surprise, a group of level 11 bluegills approach the area. Before things get worse, the strange bass from earlier charges in, body slamming the bluegills aside. It's the same one Shin had subdued with his Conquer spell, and now it's fighting on their side. Realizing this, Park silently acknowledges the unexpected help and uses the chance to escape with Shin, while the bass stays behind to hold off the others. As Park dashes through the water, the predators continue to chase her, leaving her rattled. The real problem, though, is her speed. Carrying Shin slows her down. She knows she needs to hide, and when she spots the net from before, she slips inside. The narrow opening keeps the predators from following, and after circling for a while, they eventually swim away. Relieved, Park lets out a breath and carries Shin toward a nest of bluegill eggs. She tries to feed him, but with him unconscious, he can't chew. Panic sets in as his condition looks worse by the second. With no other option, she keeps stuffing the eggs into his mouth until, thankfully, his body reacts, he coughs and finally wakes up. When Shin opens his eyes, he realizes he's in the spawning ground of the bluegill, where Park had fed him the eggs to keep him alive. Overcome with emotion, Park presses against him with her worry spilling over into relief at seeing him conscious again. Shin, struggling to keep her at a distance, warns her about parasites, but inside she can't help but feel reassured. He's awake, and that's enough for now. Meanwhile, Shin tries to put her at ease, saying he'll be fine, but inside his body, things are far from stable. The damage is severe, and the worst part is knowing he can't even acquire medicine to treat something like this. Park, seeing Shin's condition, suggests that he should eat something to level up, but Shin can't even swallow the egg. He knows he needs treatment, and a plan comes to mind. He remembers a fishing trip with Kang, when he saw the fishing ground owner throwing something into the water. Kang had explained that it was salt used to kill parasites and germs. Bringing that memory into the present, Shin decides the sea might be his best chance. If he soaks himself in seawater, it could kill the bacteria and parasites inside him. Park worries since they are freshwater fish, but for the sake of survival, they have no choice. According to Shin, their bodies can endure salt water longer than the parasites, which makes it their only shot. With that resolve, they begin moving toward the sea. Meanwhile, outside, a fisherman sprinkles bait across the water. His companion, who calls him Kim, lingers nearby with a skeptical look. He questions whether the big fish that could actually make them money will even show up here. Kim, however, stays hopeful. After all, it poured heavily last night, so the waters should be packed. The companion worries again about being caught fishing in a no-fishing zone, but Kim casually suggests they take a break in work during the night to avoid attention. Back underwater, Shin struggles against a level 19 bass while driving toward the seawater. They manage to outrun it, but the state of the river leaves them uneasy. The rain has muddied everything, making the upstream murky and harder to navigate. That means one wrong move could send them straight into a predator's path. Shin knows they need to hurry, but in water like this, rushing could be the end. For now, they choose to rest and move again at daybreak. Their temporary shelter turns out to be an abandoned barrel, and Shin can't help but feel a little lucky for finding it. As he settles in, Park keeps staring at his eyes, worry written all over her face. He assures her he can hold on, though she still frets about heading toward the sea. Shin, drawing on his fishing experience, tells her he knows the way. The level of insight surprises her, but to him it's nothing special. He never originally cared for fishing, but his old boss kept dragging him out every weekend. Over time, what began as reluctant trips slowly turned into something more. Thanks to those weekends, they had grown close, and now that experience feels like the only reason he and Park still stand a chance out here. As Shin eventually built his own family, he had to distance himself from those weekend fishing trips. Even so, the knowledge he gained back then is helping him now, and he finds himself quietly grateful for what became a hobby. Park, meanwhile, enjoys the chance to have small conversations with him. It makes the struggle feel a little less heavy. Shin, curious in his own way, turns the focus toward her. He doesn't think the man from earlier really seemed like a stalker, and he wonders what her story is. The question makes Park emotional as memories resurface. Since childhood, she had always wanted to be a singer. She gave it everything she had, but when things didn't work out, she chose independence over relying on her parents. Moving to the countryside, she started streaming her attempts at farming. To her surprise, the show gained traction. The attention and acknowledgement filled her with excitement. It felt like she had finally carved her own place. But the good days didn't last. One morning, she discovered a basket of fruit left outside her door by a fan. Instead of feeling flattered, she felt uneasy. It crossed the line into something invasive. Using her savings, she decided it was time to move. That night, after finishing her stream, the same man appeared. Out of nowhere, he grabbed her hand, his broken speech pleading with her not to leave. Panic overtook her as he dragged her toward his car. Park managed to break free, but in the chaos, she slipped on the mountain road and fell in the water. She never expected that the same kidnapper from her past would appear again, this time as a fish, but he did. Hearing her story, Shin understands her reaction. After all, she is still young. At the same time, he notices something deeper. Since she had once been a singer searching for the spotlight, her ability manifests as luminescence. It makes him realize that their skills reflect fragments of their real lives, and the thought leaves him uneasy. If that's the case, then what kind of powers might other survivors have? The idea of different skill sets, especially in hostile hands, is concerning. Park, however, holds on to hope. She believes there could still be good survivors, people willing to work together. Thinking about it, she recalls the crawfish from earlier, the one who said something strange. He had warned her about a monster fish that would change their minds and even hinted at someone else. Shin is taken aback, realizing that if the creature she spoke of was real, it must be a boss. That kind of information should appear in the system. Checking the list, Shin notices an active boss is now displayed. Its name, Drought King. He quickly pieces it together, realizing it must have been activated while he was unconscious, like the other survivors. Neither of them is sure whether the other survivors were the ones who faced the boss. As they talk, Park catches a strong, distinct smell drifting through the water. She recognizes it instantly as Diakbab. At the same time, Shin spots a boat floating on the surface and unease settles in. Fishermen, maybe? But why would they be here at such a dangerous time? As he tries to process it, Shin notices the fishermen lower a pole into the water with terminals attached to it. It takes him a few seconds to realize what's happening. The fishermen on the boat are about to use illegal electrofishing. Before they can even think of running, it's already too late. A massive shock tears through the water, knocking them both unconscious. Their bodies drift upward, floating to the surface, along with dozens of others caught in the surge. The fishermen are thrilled with their catch, happy to see so many different types of fish, and one of them hopes the haul will earn them a good payout. Kim, however, brushes him off, telling him to stay focused on gathering the fish. As they work, one fisherman notices Shin among the catch. Taking in his pale state, he quickly assumes Shin is just another parasite-ridden rotten fish. Without hesitation, they toss him back into the water. But then something else catches their eye, a goldfish among the hull. Kim is surprised to see it in river water, wondering how it ended up there. Finding it pretty, the fisherman decides to keep it for his niece and drops it into the bucket. Meanwhile, in Chairman Kang's office, one of his men returns from a stalking mission. Reporting back, he explains that they are still only keeping watch since the target hasn't done anything suspicious. Kang erupts in rage, hurling a cup at him. He had given clear orders to take care of her, not just observe. The subordinate tries to defend himself, saying he wanted to monitor her first, since she hasn't done anything unusual yet. Kang doesn't care for excuses. He orders the man to bend over, picking up his bottle of Diddy's baby oil with a chilling calm. Kang reminds him who made him what he is, a gangster under his control, and makes it clear he expects obedience, not independent decisions. Kang grips his golf club, ready to swing, and coldly orders his man to drown Shin's wife the next time he sees her. The subordinate pushes back, pleading for Kang to return to how he used to be, when he wasn't caught up in all this. The words ignite Kang's fury. His rage boils over, and with a vicious slap, he knocks the breath out of the man. Kang snarls that if he had ever planned to stop, he wouldn't have killed Shin in the first place. With that, he begins beating him brutally, each strike fueled by unrestrained anger. Back in the water, Shin slowly regains consciousness, realizing the jolt from the electrofishing must have woken him. Around him, countless fish float lifeless, discarded by the fishermen as worthless. The sight leaves him shaken, but his thoughts quickly snap to Park. Where is she? Meanwhile, on the ground, the fishermen are sorting through their catch. Kim still finds it strange to see a goldfish among river fish, though his partner insists on gifting it to his niece, who loves raising them. Kim points out that after being electrocuted, the goldfish is probably already dead. His partner ignores the comment and continues cutting into the fish, while Kim loads the rest of the haul into a barrel. After some time, Park wakes up, startled to find herself surrounded by predators. Disoriented, she struggles to piece together where she actually is. Outside, the fishermen chatter about selling their catch at the market, hiding the boat, and enjoying some drinks while they're at it. During the conversation, one of them notices the goldfish is missing and asks Kim about it. Kim casually explains that he tossed it into the barrel at the back of the truck. But when the man goes to check, there's no sign of Park. Kim brushes it off, saying he probably didn't look carefully enough and that the fish must still be in there somewhere. Meanwhile, at a distance, Park bounces along the ground, rolling toward the water after managing to slip free from the barrel. She holds her breath as she spots a stream ahead, though a sudden wave of doubt hits her. What if it isn't the right one? There's no time to think. She moves towards it anyway. The relief is short-lived. Almost immediately, she senses something behind her. Turning, she notices a massive black cat, its piercing eyes locked on her like prey. At the same time, deep in the water, Shin frantically searches for her, desperation fueling every move. Meanwhile, in Shin's house, a news plays on the TV, reporting on wastewater damage and poisoned farmland. As the anchor yaps on, Shin's wife switches it off and gets ready to head out. She's on the line with her mom, who's stressing nonstop about her. After all, Shin's wife has been running around like a maniac, searching for her missing husband. Sliding into her car, she assures her mom she's fine. Though when the topic shifts to her child, her tone softens. She asks her mother to take care of the kid, promising she'll find Shin no matter what. Her mom doesn't take it well. She scolds her for obsessing, reminding her that her son needs his mother more than her husband's mystery needs solving. But Shin's wife refuses to budge. As long as Shin's body hasn't been found, she clings to the hope that he's still alive. Her mom presses harder, but she brushes it off, explaining that she's heading to a meeting that could finally reveal some answers. And before her mom can yap any further, she hangs up, slams her foot on the gas, and speeds away. She's found a clue, and nothing is going to stop her from learning the truth about her husband's so-called death. Nothing, except, apparently, a black SUV. Just like her husband, she gets taken out in one clean hit. Inside the water, Shin is desperately looking for Park, but can't find even the slightest clue of her. He's worried, mostly because the fisherman tossed out all the worthless fish, but for some reason kept a goldfish that had no commercial value at all. That doesn't make sense, and Shin knows when things stop making sense, it usually means trouble. As he processes the situation, his stats start to go haywire, and the shock makes him weaker by the second. He realizes that if he keeps slowing down like this, Chairman Kang will erase his traces entirely. The thought bothers him even more, since he was the one who suggested coming to the sea in the first place. Determined not to give up just yet, Shin decides to keep searching and swims back up to the surface. But Park isn't there either. What he does notice, though, is how much the area has changed. He used to come fishing here with Kang, but now it's all factories and smoke. That's when it hits him. If this is the far end of the water, then Park must have been snatched up by those fishermen. While he's puzzling over it, Shin spots a pickled radish shop nearby, and a light bulb goes off in his head. Pickles mean salt, and salt means plenty of salty waste dumped into the water. Not exactly seawater, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. He figures it might work, though the possible side effects of it decides better not to think about. Just as Shin steels himself to try, he notices a bright light in the distance. Turns out Park has just used her luminescent skill to blind the black cat, and it works for a second. To her shock, even while blinded, the cat casually delivers a meow meow slam, level 4, smashing her so hard that more than half her health points vanish in an instant. She goes bouncing across the ground like a rag doll, while the cat just stands there, staring at her like it's waiting for the encore. Park is stunned. Her spell has absolutely no effect on the cat, and worse, her whole body feels like it's about to tear apart from the impact. She forces herself to calm down and notices one small silver lining. The cat's slam actually knocked her a little closer to the water, which technically improves her chances of escape. Technically. But Park isn't the type to give up. She charges straight at the cat again, this time firing off her laser beam spell. The cat, looking like it's on vacation, casually sidesteps and slams her again with another meow meow strike. Quick, accurate, and brutally on point. The kind of attack that says, yeah, I've done this before. From the outside, the cat looks cute and calm, but inside, it's a furry little demon cosplay and a house pet. That latest hit drops Park's health down to a single measly bar. She expects to land in the water to catch a break, but nope, she's still stuck on dry land, too weak to even twitch a finger. Meanwhile, the cat is already closing in, ready to finish her off. In a last-ditch effort, Park tries to bait it with the scattered fish heads around, even mentally promising the cat a tuna feast if she turns human again. But the cat is not buying it. She starts waddling forward, slow and menacing, and Park, realizing this might be the end, starts apologizing to her parents in her head. Just as the cat raises her paw for the final blow, something slams into its face with the force of a truck. A combination of a dash and a screw attack. Shin's signature chaos. Our boy hits so hard the cat goes flying backward, completely blindsided. Meanwhile, underwater, the lobster guy is absolutely going ham on survivor Lee Yanju. He tears through the poor fish in seconds, snagging some levels and a handful of enchantment points. But he's not just fighting for power, he's fighting the clock. If he doesn't keep pushing, he'll forget everything and turn into a full-time crustacean. And honestly, he'd rather be human than spend the rest of his life looking like dinner at a seafood restaurant. On the surface, Shin and Park stand face to face with the black cat. Shin glances at Park, wondering if she can move. He somehow creates an opening. Park, trembling in pain, can barely even blink, let alone move. She can't even lift a finger, and Shin realizes the situation is way worse than he thought. The outlook is grim. Park is not only helpless, but also running out of breath like a fish out of water, because, well, she literally is. Stretching this fight out isn't an option. Shin hesitates, unsure what to do, until he sees the helpless look on Park's face. That's enough to push him forward. He makes a move, only to be immediately swatted down by the cat, slammed into the dirt like a bug under a paw. Groaning, Shin notices the cat's level. 35. He never thought he'd end up here, facing down a furball this strong. In his life, he's always advanced by trampling over others, not by standing in front of something that can trample him. Lost in thought, he doesn't even see the next attack coming. The cat slams him again, this time almost playfully, like it's toying with him before dinner. Its reaction speed is sharp, its strikes constant, and Shin finds himself eating dirt more than he's standing. But in between the beatdowns, he notices something. The cat reacts to movement, and the more he moves, the more aggressive it gets. That sparks an idea. Running away isn't going to work, so maybe he can flip this aggression into an opportunity. Testing the theory, Shin grabs a nearby fish head and tosses it. The cat's eyes snap toward it instantly. Encouraged, he throws another one, and as it bounces past her, she follows it too. The mighty predator, distracted by fish scraps. Classic. Shin knows that no matter how fast this creature is, it's still an animal and instincts always come first. Using the distraction, he sneaks low, crawling beneath the cat. Its line of sight is much lower than a human's, giving him a slim advantage. He inches toward its stomach, aiming for the vital point. If he can land a clean hit there, maybe, just maybe, he can deal some real damage. Summoning every last drop of stamina, Shin launches himself forward and slams directly into the cat's PP. The cat freezes, then trembles violently in pain. Meanwhile, not too far away, a raven notices Park drifting helplessly in the water. Park is drowning in guilt almost as much as in oxygen, convinced everything that's happening is her fault. Too bad she can't even twitch a fin to help. While she's stuck in her self-blame spiral, the raven swoops down from behind ready to snatch her up. However, just as it's about to strike, a massive fish rockets out of the water and gulps the raven whole in one bite. Park's eyes snap open and she nearly chokes on her own disbelief. Right in front of her floats a gigantic fish, towering like some kind of aquatic bodyguard. The fish regards her seriously and in a low voice declares that he too is a survivor, but insists she call him the dead who has forgotten everything. Because apparently giant fish survivors don't settle for normal names. Back to Shin. After his PP hit, the cat is trembling and crying in pain. This shocks him, since he was aiming for the stomach, but ended up hitting something else instead. Still, even with that off-aim strike, Shin gets the distraction he needs and uses it to push himself toward the water. He barely manages to jump in, knowing that once he was a Chad CEO, but now he's just a miserable bass trying to survive. As he swims, a memory reward flashes in his mind. He sees a kid calling out for her dad. Surprised for a moment, Shin decides to brush it off for now and focus on tracking down that low-chromosome goldfish. Meanwhile, the goldfish stands frozen in front of the big guy, who claims he's some kind of cursed spirit. He assures Park he isn't a threat, saying their meeting is just a coincidence. Park, still a bit shaken, notices her health points are nearly back to full. Relieved, she silently thanks the big guy for it. Even so, she can't really understand the whole cursed spirit part, and instead of explaining plainly, the guy starts acting out a medieval-style rap, asking how long she's been in this form. For Park, it's been nearly a week as a fish. That's when the big guy drops a chilling fact: the longer someone stays in a transformed state, the more they start forgetting their past. He himself was once human, but after turning into a fish, he kept following the system, hunting survivors, killing bosses, growing bigger and stronger, until eventually he lost his very purpose for doing any of it. The big guy asks Park if she remembers where she wants to go back. A bit terrified, Park instead wonders who it is that gives them orders through the system. He looks like he's about to say something, but stops himself. Instead of answering, he repeats his own question. Does she know where she wants to return as a human? Park, her voice heavy with emotion, admits she wants to meet her parents again and start working like before. That's when the big guy reveals a brutal truth. If she wants to turn back into a human, she has to eat other survivors and forget everything. It's the only way. The words shake Park to her core. She hates the idea of killing, but the part that rattles her even more is when he suggests her first target should be her own partner. He insists that if she doesn't do it, she'll only end up betrayed, so it's better to strike first. But Park refuses to accept that. Shin has helped her so much, and she still believes there must be another way around it. The big guy, though, just warns her not to make the same mistake he once did, clinging to memories and purpose until it all slipped away. Then he drops a terrifying truth. In the end, only one person will actually be able to fulfill their wish. Park is left in disbelief, her mind spinning with dread. Meanwhile, back in the water, Shin is desperately searching for her. His parasite flares up again, worse than before, but even through the pain, he pushes on, hoping Park is still alive. Searching for her, Shin ends up back at the pickle reddish spot, but she's nowhere to be found. As he processes the situation, he notices the water feels strange here, the current pulling harder than before. Soon he realizes it's the factory's waste pipe discharging filthy water into the stream. Even from a distance, the stench and toxins make it hard for him to breathe, but Shin knows this might be his only chance to deal with a parasite. Forcing himself forward, his body reacts violently to the poisoned water, but he can sense salt mixed in with it. Clinging to that hope, Shin decides to dive in headfirst, praying the salt will burn the parasite out. Meanwhile, Park is caught in the big guy's attempts to brainwash her. Since she won't give in, he summons a swarm of sky-gazer fish, telling her to prove herself if she really wants it that badly. As they appear, the system suddenly notifies everyone of a new boss emerging. Back underwater, Shin is getting mangled by the toxic current, his body fighting to hold on.